All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a concept that's, well, it's literally everywhere, but it's also kind of invisible: energy. Think of it like a universal currency. It powers everything from a single thought in your head to an entire city. And trust me, once you really get it, you'll start to see the whole world a little differently.
Now, this might sound like the start of a weird joke, right? But the answer is actually super simple, and it connects our everyday lives to the massive forces that power our whole planet. And yep, you guessed it, it's all about energy.
Yeah, believe it or not, both that pizza and that power station are dealing in the exact same stuff: energy. And in the world of science, we measure this in units called joules. Now, the food we eat has thousands of joules, which is why you'll usually see it listed as kilojoules.
And just to put that into perspective for you, the amount of energy packed into 100 grams of pizza is nearly 8 times what you'd get from an apple. And that's exactly why that slice of pizza can keep you going for so much longer. It's just a way more concentrated store of the fuel your body needs.
Okay, so what is energy, anyway? Let's really dive in here. To get a proper handle on it, first we got to understand all the different ways it's stored all around us, just waiting to be used. See, energy isn't just one single thing. It comes in all these different forms. You've got chemical energy, like what's stored in a log for a fire or in your food. Then there's gravitational potential energy. Think about a roller coaster teetering at the very top of a huge hill. The second it starts to fall, that potential energy turns into kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion. And then, deep down inside atoms, you've got this incredible, mind-blowing amount of nuclear energy just waiting to be unlocked.
All right, let's scale things up a bit. We've talked about how we power our bodies, but what about powering our entire civilization? This is where we run into some really big, planet-defining choices.
So when it comes to power, humanity basically has two main paths to choose from. On one side, you have the non-renewables, things like fossil fuels. The big problem? They're finite. One day, they're going to run out, and burning them pollutes our atmosphere. But on the other side, we've got renewables like solar and wind. These are clean, they're infinite, and they contribute way, way less to climate change.
And this is where things get, well, complicated, because every single energy source has its own pros and cons. Fossil fuels, they pack a massive energy punch, but they're the #1 cause of climate change. What about nuclear power? It gives us huge amounts of energy with zero CO2 emissions, but then you've got this long-lasting radioactive waste to deal with. And even the really clean stuff like solar and wind, they have their own limits, right? Solar doesn't work at night, and wind turbines, well, they need wind.
So what are the actual real-world consequences of us relying so heavily on one type of energy, fossil fuels, over everything else? Well, the impact is something we're starting to feel all over the globe.
You know, our planet stays warm enough for us to live on it because of a totally natural process called the greenhouse effect. Basically, the atmosphere acts like a cozy blanket. It lets the sun's energy come in, and then it traps some of the heat that radiates back out. It's a really delicate balance.
But here's the problem. Our activities, especially burning fossil fuels for energy, are pumping massive amounts of extra greenhouse gases, like CO2, into the air. And what that does is it basically makes that atmospheric blanket thicker and thicker, trapping way too much heat and messing with our climate.
And get this, for centuries, CO2 levels in the atmosphere were pretty much stable. But then, you look at what's happened since the Industrial Revolution kicked off about 200 years ago, it's just this incredibly steep climb. It really shows you just how dramatically we've changed our atmosphere in what is, geologically speaking, a blink of an eye.
Okay, but this brings us to a really powerful solution. And it's not just about where we get our energy from, but also about how we use it. This is where every single one of us can actually make a huge difference.
I mean, think about it for a second. When you turn on a light or use any appliance, does all of the electrical energy that you're paying for actually go into doing something useful? Or is a lot of it just wasted?
And this is where a concept called efficiency becomes absolutely crucial. To put it simply, an efficient device is one that gets the job done without wasting a ton of energy. The less energy wasted, the more efficient it is.
A perfect example of this is the light bulb. An old-school filament bulb, the kind you might still have in an old lamp, wastes most of its electrical energy as heat. It gets super hot to the touch, right? That's because only a tiny bit of that energy is actually turning into useful light. But a modern LED bulb, it's the complete opposite. It's engineered to turn most of its energy directly into light, with very little being wasted as heat. We can actually put a number to this. So if an LED bulb is, say, 60% efficient, it means 60% of the electricity it uses is turned into useful light and the rest is lost. Now, the higher that number, the less energy we're wasting. And this is the key takeaway here. By choosing more efficient devices, we get the exact same results, a bright room, clean clothes, cold food, but we use far, far less energy to do it.
So let's just tie this all together. What do we learn? First, energy is this fundamental currency that connects everything, from the food on your plate to the electricity in your home. Second, our huge reliance on fossil fuels is changing our planet's climate fast. And third, and this is the hopeful part, energy efficiency is an incredibly powerful tool we can all use. Just choosing smarter devices helps reduce waste and our collective energy demand in a massive way.
And that really leaves us with one final big thought. We've seen just how much energy can be saved with better technology. And this is technology that, for the most part, already exists today. So if saving energy can be as simple as changing a light bulb, what's really stopping us?